champ now. Yes, I didn't say. What are you looking so sad about, champ?
I'm surprised. I mean, I'm really insulted. That's not right, what you just said.
What do you mean, what I just said?
I mean, I'm good. But I'm late getting home. Oh, I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talk about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis what did he touch for me? Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you stood a chance with me?
Well, Clay, one time I done my career, I was on a bum of money tour.
I would have been a bum compared to you.
What's happening, my people? It's Cat Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Box Historian bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. Miss Cass, Donnie Williams, Ray Patterson, Mike Masick, Perot, what's up? Good to see you today. Salute to everyone and welcome to another episode of Cat Sports, the Box Historian. Today, the life and career of the Italian Dragon, Joe Calzaghe, Mr. 46-0 himself. How's everybody today? Right at the end of another big week of boxing history, we're going to end it up with the profile as usual. Today, the Italian Dragon, Joe Calzaghe. Like I said, Mr. 46-0. You know, I was just talking for like 15 minutes and didn't even start the show. Man, I was halfway through the highlights of boxing history before I realized I never even started the show, man. Never hit go live. So let's start over. Highlights of boxing history today is going to be 10 of the top brawlers in boxing history. So let's get started with the highlights of boxing history. Okay, let's go. We got 10 of the top brawlers in boxing history. That's a nice good one right there, Roberto Duran, right? Let's talk about these 10 great brawlers who like to get in there and get down and dirty. How's everybody today? Appreciate everybody stopping by. Perro back in the building today. Mike Mazik, RP, and Donnie Williams, Miss Cass. It's hard to be a great boxing champion without the ability to dig in and brawl when necessary, right? Now, Sugar Ray Leonard had to brawl his way to victory in his first fight with Thomas Hearns. Muhammad Ali never would have won 2 or 3 fights against Joe Frazier if he hadn't had the brawling ability to fight his way out of trouble when Smoking Joe crashed inside on him and started throwing heat in the pocket. Now, few, if any other fighters on this list could be classified as pure brawlers. Everybody listed here is an all-time great, and a good number of them show up on various all-time pound-for-pound top 10 lists. Now, a fighter can achieve that status without well-rounded skills. Still, the ability of these fighters to out-brawl opponents was the extra element of their game that made them elite. Okay, let's talk about them. The Cyclone, Gene Fullmer. The Cyclone. A rugged native of Utah, Gene Fullmer held the world middleweight title during the 1950s, which was probably the toughest decade in the history of the division. 100%. 50s. Greatest decade of all for middleweights. 160. Fullmer's record against the legendary Sugar Ray Robinson was 2 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. Now, Robinson was past his prime for all of those fights, and especially the last 2, but he was still an elite fighter when Fullmer beat him. Okay? Fullmer lived up to his nickname of the Cyclone, attacking with flurrying punches, elbows, and headbutts. He twice beat fellow brawler Carmen Basilio, and the ring elected their first fight as 1959's Fight of the Year. Fullmer's 1960 draw with Joey Giardello is often described as the dirtiest fight of all time. Okay, talking about some brawlers. How about JCC, Julio Cesar Chavez? Okay, you want to talk about brawling? JCC could do it. Known to his millions of adoring fans as JC Superstar, Julio Cesar Chavez is the greatest fighter to come out of Mexico and the most dominant professional fighter of the 1980s. The 6-time 3-division world champion ran his record to an astonishing 87-0 before having a draw with Pernell Whitaker in September 1993. Chavez was 89 wins, no losses, 1 draw before suffering his first loss to Frankie Randall in January 1994. Chavez was a relentless stalker with a ferocious body attack. His ability to cut off a ring and land accurate, bruising punches in an exchange were indicative of an exceptional offensive skill set. But his ability to outfight opponents ultimately made him so special. He had a granite chin and frequently beat better technical boxers because 1 punch from JCC did more damage than 2 or 3 of his opponents. JCC, Julio Cesar Chavez. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Talk about some great brawlers. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Now, Marvin Hagler is a pound-for-pound great and arguably the best middleweight of all time. He had exceptional boxing skills. He was very much a complete fighter, but he could also hang with anybody as a brawler, which he proved in April 1985 in his legendary war with fellow superstar Thomas the Hitman Hearns. The fight was a furious 3-round shootout that many boxing fans regard as the most exciting fight ever. Hearns was among the most devastating pound-for-pound punchers in history, and he came into this encounter after recently destroying Roberto Duran by a round 2 knockout, an unprecedented achievement. Stopping Roberto Duran by round 2 knockout, unprecedented. Hearns rocked Hagler badly in the first round and inflicted a gruesome cut to the bridge of his nose. But Hagler was relentless, wading that forward behind a wild two-fisted attack. Hagler finally dropped his man in round 3. Hearns astonishingly beat the count, but he was clearly out on his feet and defenseless as referee Richard Steele waved off the action. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Talking about some brawlers. Smoking Joe Frazier. Smoking Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier was a fluid combination puncher with a tricky bob and weave style of fighting that transcended mere brawling. He handed Muhammad Ali his first professional loss in 1971 and fought Ali on brutally competitive terms in the 2 fights that Ali won. It took a lot more than brawling ability for Frazier to become Ali's greatest nemesis. But Frazier's capacity to absorb punishment while coming forward relentlessly was crucial to his success. Against Ali, his brawling leveled the playing field. A compact heavyweight, Frazier would crash through a jab and into range with his arms crossed in front of his body, like a blocking back in football. Every punch Smoking Joe threw had murderous intent, even when he worked a speed bag in the gym. Smoking Joe Frazier. Okay, talking about some of the 10 of the best brawlers of all time. Guys like to get inside and get down and dirty with it. Homicide Hank, Henry Armstrong. Homicide Hank. For a brief period in 1938, Henry Armstrong simultaneously held the world titles at featherweight, lightweight, and welterweight. This was during an era with only 8 weight classes and only 1 world champion in each class. To put that accomplishment into perspective, with contemporary boxing in today's game, between 15 and 20 fighters claim world championship status for that same span of weight classes at any given time. In 1940, Armstrong had a draw against middleweight champion Cesarino Garcia. A win would have made him the world champion in half of boxing's weight classes during a 2-year period. So he rates as among the greatest pound-for-pound boxers of all time, no matter what standard is used for evaluation. For many historians, Armstrong is number 2 behind only Sugar Ray Robinson. Armstrong excelled at changing levels and had an uncanny ability to slip in and out of range and alter his angles. But brawling played a big role in his success. He had the twin nicknames of Hurricane and Homicide Hank, and both were well earned. He attacked in a fury, often denying his opponents any space to throw a punch. Between April 1937 and March 1938, Armstrong knocked out an astonishing 27 straight opponents, more than 2 per month. Homicide Henry Armstrong. The Pittsburgh Windmill, Harry Greb. Harry Greb is arguably the greatest middleweight in history and certainly the most dominant in the era prior to World War II. There's a strong argument for him to be in the pound-for-pound top 5 as well. He's the only man to ever defeat legendary heavyweight champion Gene Tunney. And Greb provided Jack Dempsey with some of the most ferocious sparring grounds of his career. He is a bit of a mythical character due to a tragic lack of available footage of him in the ring, but contemporary newspaper reports describe a skilled and ferocious brawler. Nicknamed the Pittsburgh Windmill, Greg was an all-action fighter, attacking behind, sweeping overhand rights, and violent lead hooks and uppercuts. Harry Greg, boxing legend. Okay, just got a couple more. Talking about some of the greatest brawlers of all time. How about Big George Foreman? Big George Foreman. Technically, Foreman would be categorized as a puncher rather than a brawler. But he excelled in cutting off a ring and trapping opponents. But Big George could also outbrawl just about any other heavyweight in history. He could take a monster punch and come back with an even harder one of his own. Foreman recorded devastating early stoppages of Joe Frazier and Ken Norton, two of the top 5 heavyweights of the 1970s, which was the most talent-saturated decade in the history of the division. But the fights that demonstrated his brawling ability was his round 5 knockout of Ron Lyle in 1976. Lyle was one of the last fighters that was cut from this list to narrow it to 10. And Lyle's battle with Foreman was perhaps the greatest slugfest in heavyweight boxing history. Now, Lyle came out firing bombs in the first round and hurt Foreman badly. Big George returned the favor in round 2. In round 4, Lyle knocked Foreman down, who got up and knocked Lyle down. Then Lyle floored Foreman again before the end of round 4. He hurt Foreman badly in the 5th round, but Big George weathered it and finally knocked Lyle out cold in the last minute of the round, round 5. Okay, the Manasseh Mauler, Jack Dempsey, the Manasseh Mauler. Look at that, some great brawlers. We're going to talk about Mr. 46-0, Joe Calzaghe. Now, Jack Dempsey started his career as a kind of hobo tough man, hopping freight trains and picking up fights wherever he could find them. Nicknamed the Manasseh Mauler, Dempsey had the neck of a bull and the chin of a granite statue. Both fists were like exploding hand grenades. He gave up nearly 60 pounds when he challenged the gigantic Jess Willard for the heavyweight championship in 1919. The result was a one-sided beatdown, which Dempsey won by 3rd round knockout over a man he was giving up 60 pounds to. Dempsey's 1923 defense against Louis Firpo would rate alongside the previously discussed George Foreman versus Ron Lyle fight as the most exciting heavyweight fight ever. Dempsey dropped Firpo 7 times in the 1st round and twice more in the 2nd round before finally putting him down for good. And Dempsey also went down once. 10 knockdowns in 2 rounds in that fight. At the same time, Dempsey was knocked down twice, including completely out of the ring. Okay, final 2 of the brawlers. The real deal, Evander Holyfield. The real deal, Evander Holyfield. Talking about some great brawlers right now. Now, Evander Holyfield won a bronze medal in the 1984 Olympics at light heavyweight. He turned pro shortly after the games, and by 1988, he was the undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world. He then jumped to heavyweight and spent the decade beating up much larger men during a decade that would rate as among the most competitive in the history of the division, second behind the 70s. And heavyweights in the 1990s weren't just good, they were often huge. Holyfield got in his larger opponents' faces and fought them inside with the tenacity of a pit bull, using tactics that skirted the rule book. He was notorious for using his head as a weapon and tended to be casual about keeping his body shots above the belt line. Okay, finally, number 1 on the top 10 greatest brawlers of all time, the Hands of Stone, Roberto Duran. Roberto Duran is arguably the greatest lightweight in history, and his boxing skills take a backseat to very few fighters. Under the guidance of legendary trainers Ray Arcel and Freddie Brown, Duran developed tricky defensive abilities also. But no matter how refined he became, the former Panamanian street kid never stopped attacking like a wild barbarian. And his ability to outbrawl nearly anyone was the extra ingredient that made him one of the elite fighters of all time. The man known as Hands of Stone carried his power and chin up through the weight class, all the way up to light heavyweight from lightweight. After vacating his lightweight title, he moved up to welterweight and beat a bigger, younger, faster, and more skilled fighter in Sugar Ray Leonard. He did it by drawing Leonard into a macho brawl. At junior middleweight, Duran won the WBA belt by round 8 TKO over Davey Moore. At middleweight, Duran extended the seemingly invincible Marvin Hagler nearly to his limit before losing a close 15-round decision. He eventually captured the WBC version of the middleweight title from Iran Barkley in 1989. Duran was 37 by then, and he engaged Barkley in a phone booth-style brawl that won Fight of the Year honors. Duran failed in several attempts to win a world title at super middleweight, although he did win the minor NBA belt. A born fighter, Duran lost his last pro fight in 2001 against Hector Camacho, a month after turning 50, okay? Duran had pro fights in 5 separate decades. Okay, there you have it. 10 of the top brawlers of all time, okay? So now let's get into the Italian Dragon, Joe Calzaghe, okay? Excuse me for like 5 seconds. I gotta get my tablet off the charger. And then we're gonna talk about the Italian Dragon, Joe Calzaghe. Okay, wait 1 second. Okay, we're back. We are back. Okay, appreciate everybody in the building today. We got Miss Cass, Donnie Williams, Ray Patterson, Mike Mazik, and Perot in the building so far. Hopefully we get a few more in here before it's all said and done. But we ain't gonna wait for them. We're gonna start Joe Calzaghe right now. Who's the profile again? No, I'm just kidding. Joe Calzaghe, right? Okay, getting everything set up here. Sure this thing stay on. Okay. All right, the Italian Dragon, or the Pride of Wales, also known as the Pride of Wales, in the ring. I've had 2 nicknames. Joe did. 46-0 during his career. Come on, Joe. What is going on, Joe? There we go. Okay. The life and career of the Pride of Wales / the Italian Dragon, Joe Calzaghe. Anything going on into the chat before we get ready? Nope. All right. Now, Joseph William Calzaghe had a 15-year career, pro career, competed from 1993 to 2008. He held multiple world championships in 2 weight classes, including unified and lineal titles at super middleweight and the Ring Magazine light heavyweight title. Okay. Joe is currently 53 years of age, known as the Pride of Wales and the Italian Dragon. Fought in 2 divisions, super middleweight and light heavyweight. Joe was 6 foot even, right? Reach of 73 inches. Fought in the southpaw stance. He had a total of 46 fights during his pro career, of which he won 46, lost 0, 32 by way of knockout. Okay, Mr. 46-0, Joe Calzaghe. All right. Now, Calzaghe is the longest reigning super middleweight world champion in boxing history, having held the WBO title for over 10 years and defending it against 20 opponents, a record for the division, tied with Sven Otke, before vacating, moving up to light heavyweight, right? As the super middleweight and light heavyweight reigns overlapped, he retired with the longest continual time as world champion of any active boxer at the time. Calzaghe was the first boxer to unify 3 of the 4 major world titles, WBA, WBC, and WBO, at super middleweight. And he was the inaugural ring champion at super middleweight, okay? Now, between 2006 and 2008, Calzaghe was ranked by the Ring as one of the world's top 10 active boxers, pound for pound, reaching a peak ranking of 3rd in January 2009. He retired in February 2009 with an undefeated record of 46 wins and is a reigning world champion. As of December 2024, BoxRec ranked Calzaghe as the 37th greatest fighter of all time, pound for pound, as well as the 2nd greatest European boxer of all time. In 2007, Calzaghe won the BBC Sports Personality of the Year award, making him the first Welsh winner of that award since David Broom in 1960. And Calzaghe was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 2014, of course on his first ballot. And of course, like I said, nicknamed the Pride of Wales and the Italian Dragon. And let's look at his early life. Look at Joe's early life, okay? All right. Calzaghe was born in Hammersmith, London, to a Sardinian father, Enzo, and a Welsh mother, Jackie. His maternal grandparents settled in Britain after the Second World War, during which his grandfather, Giuseppe, had served in the 12th Infantry Division, but had returned to live in Italy by the end of the 1950s. Now, Calzaghe's father worked several jobs as a teenager in Italy, including as a barman, a chef, and a cleaner, before traveling Europe as a busker, okay, as a busker, whatever that is. Now, his father eventually arrived back in Britain to visit family in Bournemouth. It was during this time that Calzaghe's parents met. His mother hailed from the mining town of Markham. The couple married and briefly moved to Sardinia, but returned shortly after when Calzaghe's mother became homesick. They settled in London, his father working 2 jobs in a factory and a bed and breakfast, while his mother worked as a secretary in the offices of a production company, 20th Century Fox. Okay? Yep, mother worked for 20th Century Fox. Wow. Okay, now Calzaghe was born in Hammersmith Hospital in March 1972, before his father decided to move the family back to Sardinia at the end of the year, living in his grandfather's home in Bencali. However, his mother again pushed to return to Britain, and the family lived with his maternal grandmother in Markham for 3 years before they moved into their own home on a council estate in Penwhitmar, near the town of Newbridge in Caerphilly, County Borough, South Wales. Now, Joe attended the local schools in South Wales, right? Along with his two sisters, Melissa and Sonia, and developed a keen interest in playing football. That's soccer, they call soccer football over there. He joined Pentmar FC at under 10s level, playing as a midfielder, and scored consistently during his early years. He was a pretty good soccer player, Joe was. Now, at the age of 8, he was given a children's boxing toy that developed his interest in the sport, and his father made a punching bag from an old carpet. Now, Joe joined his first boxing club, Newbridge Amateur Boxing Club, at 10 years old, and the sport quickly took priority for the young Calzaghe, as he gave up playing football after 2 years, just focused on boxing. Calzaghe moved on to Oakdale Comprehensive School at 11, but was targeted by bullies as a teenager, becoming a target of regular verbal abuse that left him isolated. Now, although the culprits left him alone after a year, Calzaghe later admitted that he never recovered from the abuse and left school without sitting any of his GCSEs. Now, Calzaghe was the first person to be awarded the Freedom of Caerphilly County Borough in 2009. Already an MBE, he was elevated to CBE in the 2008 Queen's Birthday Honors. Let's look at Joe's amateur career. Amateur career for Joe Calzaghe. In 120 amateur fights, Calzaghe won 4 schoolboy ABA titles, followed by 3 consecutive senior British ABA titles between 1990 and 1993, which were won in 3 different weight categories: welterweight, junior middleweight, and middleweight. He reportedly had an amateur record of 110 wins and 10 losses. Calzaghe received his last 2 defeats in a boxing ring at the hands of Michael Smith in the 1990 Welsh ABA final and against Romanian amateur Adrian Preda at the 1990 European Junior Championship in Prague. Never lost again in his life after those 2 losses. Okay? Never lost as a pro. Okay, let's go to his professional career now. Joe Calzaghe, the Pride of Wales, or the Italian Dragon. Okay? Started his career at super middleweight, 168. In September of 1993, Calzaghe was signed up and made his pro debut at Cardiff Arms Park on the Lennox Lewis versus Frank Bruno undercard. Right? And he halted 23-fight veteran Paul Hanlon in 1 round. By September 1995, Calzaghe had won 13 out of 13 fights, including 7 in the first round and 2 in the second, including quick-fire victories over the highly experienced American duo of Frank Minton and Robert Curry, with only the fully fledged British light heavyweight Barbie Lou Edwards lasting the distance with him. Okay? In October 1995, Calzaghe won the vacant British super middleweight title, stopping the previously unbeaten Stephen Wilson in the 8th round. Okay? Won his first title was the British title. Stopped the previously unbeaten guy, okay, in the 8th round, Stephen Wilson. So Joe's off to a great start in his pro career. At the end of 1995, Calzaghe was voted Young Boxer of the Year by the Professional Boxing Association and the Boxing Writers Club, with Barry McGuigan top tipping Calzaghe for 1996. He said he punches ferociously, moves superbly, and has the best of the European technique and U.S. aggression. After beginning 1996 with 2 more quick knockouts over Guy Stanford and Anthony Brooks, he successfully defended his British title with an easier than expected 5th round stoppage of the tough, undefeated puncher Mark Delaney, who was 21-0 coming into that fight against Calzaghe. Now, despite Delaney being a good fighter in his own right, Calzaghe's critics said that he has still not really been tested. Calzaghe said in reply that he could only beat whoever was out there and prepared to fight him. Calzaghe rounded off the year with wins over 2 experienced opponents in Warren Stowe and Pat Lawler. In November 1996, Calzaghe moved to Frank Warren's stable. Now, Warren, who had managed Nigel Benn for his first 20 fights, declared, Joe Calzaghe is a far better prospect. In fact, he is my fighter for the new millennium. Now, Calzaghe continued his winning ways in 1997, defeating Carlos Christie, the unbeaten Tyler Hughes, and the 45-2 Luciano Torres. Meanwhile, Warren spent the summer of 1997 chasing a fight for Calzaghe with either WBC champion Robin Reed or Irish WBO champion Steve Collins. The fight with Collins was arranged, but at a late stage, Collins withdrew because of injury, and he was stripped of his title, and he didn't retire. Okay, so now he's getting ready to go for his first major title, which was the WBO super middleweight title. Okay, went up against a big name for it too. WBO super middleweight title. After Collins retired, a fight against British boxing legend Chris Eubanks was quickly set up for the vacant WBO title on October 11th, 1997 in Sheffield. Now, Calzaghe emerged victorious over the 2-time WBO champion, knocking a granite chin Eubank down in the first opening seconds of the fight and claiming a unanimous points win. The judges had it, 118-110, 118-109, and 116-111, all in favor of Calzaghe. So he dominated Eubanks. Now, Eubanks set up Calzaghe in a 2006 interview that Joe is the proper article, a true warrior. Now, Calzaghe conceded that Eubank, even in his comeback, gave him the toughest fight of his life. His popularity grew alongside the wider cultural movement of Hu Simru, and Calzaghe was symbolic of the new Welsh identity, which was forming. Okay? Yeah, that went over Eubank, really gave his popularity a big boost. Yes, it did. So he's now the WBO super middleweight champion, first major title. Oh, goodness. What did I just do? Okay, in 1999, Calzaghe started out by fighting his domestic rival. Wait a minute, that's not where I'm at. Okay. In 1998, Calzaghe defended his title against Branko Sobat, winning by technical knockout in 3 rounds. Sobat was a late replacement for Syrian-American Tariq Salmasi, who pulled out after a row with his management. Sobat was knocked down in the 3rd round. He beat the count, but immediately came under renewed punishment from Calzaghe, forcing the referee to step in at 135 of the 3rd round and stop the fight. Okay? Referee stepped in and stopped it. In Calzaghe then went on to defeat perennial contender Juan Carlos Jimenez, ninth round TKO. And Jimenez was a former opponent of both Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank. And Calzaghe became the first boxer to stop Jimenez, right? Something which Benn, Eubank, and Roberto Duran had failed to do. Okay? First one to stop him. Those three big names couldn't do it. Conor Benn, Chris Eubank, or Roberto Duran. But Calzaghe did it. Okay? In 1999, Calzaghe started out by fighting his domestic rival, Robin Reed. Calzaghe was bitter that Reed had refused to face him while holding the WBC championship in a unification fight and vowed to beat him, while Reed vowed to upset the odds by defeating Calzaghe and becoming a world champion again. After 4 rounds of the fight, Calzaghe seemed in total control and on his way to a comfortable victory. But then Reed won the next couple of rounds, and it became a highly competitive fight thereafter, with around 5 close rounds by the end of the fight that could have been scored either way or even, okay? Reed was also docked a point by the referee in the 8th round after a 5th warning for rapid punches and low blows. It was arguably the closest that Calzaghe came to losing in his entire pro boxing career. After 12 rounds, the judges scored the fight for Calzaghe by a split decision. 2 judges had it 116-111 for Calzaghe, while the other had it 116-111 for Reed. So that was the closest he ever came to losing in his career. The closest that 46-0 record came. In danger of being 45-1. Now, Reed was never given the opportunity of a rematch. Now, Calzaghe badly bruised his hand during the fight, and according to Calzaghe, he suffered a dose of food poisoning. Calzaghe finished the year with another points win against Australian Rick Thornberry, where he broke his hand in the 3rd round after looking like overwhelming his opponent early. Okay? Then he broke his hand. But he did win the fight. He did win. Okay. Now, the year 2000 started with another points decision against fellow Briton David Starry, okay, in what was a dull fight that had a lot of holding, and the boxers, and with the boxers' respective styles never gelling. This was followed by impressive wins against Omar Shika, who was coming off a win over Glenn Johnson. He beat Omar by 5th round stoppage, and a TKO over former WBC world champion and close friend Richie Woodall in 10 competitive rounds in what turned out to be Woodall's last fight. Yep, Woodall retired after that fight. (2001) started with an impressive 1st round stoppage win over the unbeaten German #1 contender, Mario V. And Mario was 30-0 coming into that fight. That was followed by a win against American contender Will McIntyre on the Mike Tyson-Brian Nielsen undercard in Copenhagen, Denmark, marking Calzaghe's first defense outside of Great Britain. He didn't come out of Great Britain too much. Now, Calzaghe dropped McIntyre in the 3rd round with a ferocious left uppercut, although McIntyre managed to survive the count. But the end was near. Calzaghe dropped McIntyre again at the start of the 4th round, and this time the referee stopped the fight. Okay? Oh, man. So he moves on. In 2002 started with a unanimous points wins against former IBF world champion Charles Brewer of the United States in Cardiff, Wales, followed by a shutout 12-round unanimous decision over Miguel Angel Jimenez, 120 to 107 on all three judges' scorecards. And then a quick second-round TKO of American Tucker Pudwill, who took the fight at very short notice as a replacement for the injured Thomas Tate. This fight was in Newcastle in December 2002. With the win over Pudwill, Calzaghe successfully defended his WBO super middleweight title for the 12th time. After the fight, Calzaghe said, "I'm one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. I want to be remembered as one of the best British boxers ever." Okay? Now, his only... Oh, here we go. Yes, I'm right. Now, Calzaghe's only fight of 2003 was in June against another former world champion in the shape of another American, Byron Mitchell, at the Cardiff International Arena, Cardiff, Wales again. Calzaghe won by TKO in the second round. Now, Calzaghe suffered his first career knockdown in the second round of this fight before rising to halt Mitchell in this very same round, thus becoming the first boxer to stop Mitchell. Suffered a knockdown, then got up and stopped him in the very same round. Okay? But these numbers are jumping up and down here. 8338, but it's all good. Hope everybody that's in here is enjoying the show. Now, 2004 started out with a defense against Armenian contender Miguel Mitrian in Cardiff, where he won easily by a 7th-round knockout, followed by a points win over Egyptian-American Cabaret Salem in Edinburgh in October, during which Calzaghe was briefly knocked down in the 4th round by a right hand. However, Calzaghe was not hurt, and he dominated the fight and knocked Salem down in the 12th and winning comfortably on all three scorecards, 116-109, 117-109, and 118-107. But you see the pattern. He's always fighting in the UK. That was the only knock on him during his 46-0 career, was he wouldn't come out of the UK and fight anybody. He didn't come to the United States until he fought B. Hop and Roy Jones. That was like the last couple of fights of his career before he ever fought in the States. So that was the knock on him. You know, he didn't like fighting anywhere but the UK. Okay. Now, Mario Veit worked his way to a rematch against Calzaghe in Germany in July 2005, marking Calzaghe's second defense on foreign soil, only the second time he fought out of the UK, right? Now, Calzaghe beat Veit by technical knockout in the 6th round. On September 10th, 2005, Calzaghe fought the Kenyan boxer Evans Ashira and won by a comfortable unanimous decision over the former middleweight title challenger, despite breaking his left hand in the 3rd round. Now, Calzaghe fought on one-handed, winning 120, 108, 120, 108, 120, 107. He was shutout with one hand. Fought the last 9 rounds with one hand. Okay, it was a title defense, so it had to be 12 rounds. Broke his hand in the 3rd round and threw a shutout on one hand. Incredible. Okay, so now finally becomes unified super middleweight champion. Joe Calzaghe versus Jeff Lacey. His scheduled unification fight with IBF super middleweight champion Jeff Lacey for November 4th, 2005 was initially canceled due to the break sustained to the metacarpal in his left hand in his last fight. Frank Warren successfully rescheduled it for March 5th, 2006. Okay. So it was put off for like 6 months, 5-6 months. And the match was won by an easy unanimous points decision over Lacey, who was a pre-fight favorite with the bookmakers and American pundits alike. They favored Lacey. Now, Calzaghe dominated throughout the fight, with British fight fans chanting "easy" at the American during the last 3 rounds. Calzaghe gained the IBF title and won every round despite a point being deducted in 11 for an illegal behind-the-body punch. Okay? He also won the vacant Ring Magazine and lineal titles, becoming the first super middleweight to be recognized as world champion by the Ring Magazine. Okay, first Ring Magazine super middleweight champion. Joe Calzaghe. Okay. On October 14th, 2006, Calzaghe faced the rugged contender and future WBC super middleweight champion, Sakio Bika. 2 points were deducted from Bika for headbutts, one of which led to a severe cut over Calzaghe's left eye, which would cause him problems for the duration of the fight. However, Calzaghe won the fight by a clear decision to continue his undefeated run. On November 20, Calzaghe versus Peter Manfredo Jr. On November 27, 2006, it was announced that Calzaghe had signed a contract to defend his WBO super middleweight title against former star of the contender, Peter Manfredo Jr. of the United States, April 7, 2007, at Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, Wales, to be shown on HBO. Now, because HBO did not want to cover a fight with the non-American mandatory IBF challenger, Robert Stieglitz of Germany, and with the opportunity to fight world middleweight champion Jermaine Taylor in the summer if he won against Manfredo, Calzaghe chose to fight Manfredo, and as a result, had to relinquish the IBF Super Middleweight Championship. Okay? Both Calzaghe and Warren claimed that Stieglitz doesn't mean anything outside Germany. Now, Stieglitz went on to fight Alejandro Barrio for the vacant IBF title, losing in 3 rounds. Barrio, in turn, lost the title to Lucian Butte in his first defense. Wow. On April 7th, 2007, Calzaghe met Manfredo in front of 35,000 fans in Cardiff, Wales. Now, Calzaghe was victorious on a 3rd round stoppage, unleashing a flurry of punches on the outclassed Manfredo, who threw nothing in return. Thus, American commentators called the stoppage premature because Manfredo did not appear hurt. Now, HBO's ringside trainer, Emmanuel Stewart, did contend that Calzaghe was clearly on his way to victory, but the stoppage was no fault of his own. Yeah, he was on the way to beating him anyway, so they just saved him from saved Manfredo from some unnecessary damage. That's all. And this was a big fight here when he fought Mikkel Kessler. Calzaghe versus Mikkel Kessler, the German. In May 2007, Frank Warren released details to BBC 5 Live, and on his website that Calzaghe had accepted Mogen Pali's offer of $5 million to fight undefeated WBA and WBC world champion Mikkel Kessler. The fight took place at Cardiff Millennium Stadium on November 4th, 2007. The fight was a unification fight for the WBO, the Ring, WBA, and WBC super middleweight titles, okay? Now, Calzaghe won by unanimous decision, surpassing the 20 defenses made by Bernard Hopkins and Larry Holmes at middleweight and heavyweight, respectively. Only former heavyweight champion Joe Louis with 25 defenses and former heavyweight champion Darius Michaelzuski, 23 defenses. Former minimum weight champion Ricardo Lopez, 23 defenses. And former heavyweight champion Vladimir Klitschko, 23 defenses, have made more title defenses than Calzaghe. Okay? That was it. Now, Calzaghe was frequently described as undisputed champion, but since he had relinquished the IBF title, others argued that this was not strictly accurate. Reuters called him the undisputed king of the division, while David A. Avila said he was the true undisputed world champion. Forget about the IBF title holder Alejandro Barrio. That's really Calzaghe's belt too, because he had to relinquish that when he didn't fight Stiglitz, remember? He was trying to set up a fight with Jermaine Taylor that never happened. Now, the WBA describes an undisputed champion as one who holds any two of the WBA, WBC, IBF, and WBO titles, which Calzaghe did after beating Kessler and had earlier done after beating Lacey. So he had two of the belts. That's not undisputed. You got to have four. I don't know where they get that nonsense from. Two belt undisputed. It was when it was only two belts, WBA and WBC, but now it's four. No, he was never undisputed. Never officially undisputed. Because he fought in the four belt era. And he never had, did have, most he had was three at one time, never had four. Because he had the WBA, WBO, and WBC, but he had been stripped of the IBF, remember? Yeah. Okay. Calzaghe versus Hopkins. Goes to light heavyweight. Calzaghe versus B-Hop. This is when he fight Bernard Hopkins and Roy Jones fights. On April the 19th, 2008, at the Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada, Calzaghe defeated Bernard Hopkins to win the Ring Light Heavyweight Championship by a split decision in his first ever fight in the United States. That was his first fight in the United States when he fought B-Hop. That was the knock on him, yeah. He would never, I think he made like 2 defenses in Germany. The rest of his fights was in the UK. That's the only knock on Joe Calzaghe was, he wouldn't come stateside and fight. It was his first fight against Bernard Hopkins. I think it was like his 45th fight. I think Bernard Hopkins and Roy Jones was his last 2, I believe. We'll find out. Yeah, April 19th, 2008 at the Thomas and Mack Center, Las Vegas, Nevada. He beat B-Hop by split decision. First ever fight in the United States. Now, Calzaghe did not get off to a good start against B-Hop. In the first round, Hopkins struck him with a right hand, knocking him down, okay? Now, as the rounds went by, Calzaghe continued to push the pace and began to get his rhythm going by landing combinations at close range. Now, Hopkins' key weapon was his right hand, but after a few rounds, Calzaghe could see the right hands coming and easily blocked the shot, while Hopkins gradually tired. Now, according to Box, Calzaghe landed more punches on Hopkins than any of his previous opponents. Calzaghe also outlanded Hopkins in both total punches and power punches in each round of the fight. American judges Chuck Giampa had it 116-111 and Ted Gimser 115-112 scored the fight for Calzaghe, while Judge, Adelaide Bird had it 114-113 for Hopkins. Right, unofficial judge Harold Letterman 116-111 for Calzaghe. That means absolutely nothing what Harold Letterman said. Yeah, but he had it for Calzaghe. Adelaide Bird, that means absolutely nothing either, but she's an official judge. Was anyway. Now, Hopkins was upset with the official decision and said that he was robbed of a clear point to win. Hopkins said, I just really feel like I took the guy to school. I feel like I made him fight my fight, not his. I wanted him to run into my shots. I think I made him do that. And I think I made it look pretty easy. I think I controlled the pace and I controlled the fight. And Hopkins has openly stated that he wanted a rematch with Calzaghe. But Calzaghe said it was one of the toughest fights of my career. He is very clever. He was so awkward. It wasn't pretty, but I won the fight. It wasn't my best night, but I know I won. Calzaghe said the first 4 rounds, and after that, Calzaghe got in his groove, much like he did when he fought Mikel Kessler. And from that point on, it was Calzaghe. And Calzaghe didn't fight from that point on. It was Calzaghe. And Calzaghe didn't fight as good a fight as he could have fought, and he still won decisively. Emmanuel Stewart said it ringside. Yeah, Emmanuel Stewart called it for Calzaghe too. Now, final Roy Jones, final fight of his career. Roy Jones Jr. Second fight in the United States in his career. Roy Jones Jr. Calzaghe versus Jones Jr. Okay? See if I missed anybody coming in. The chat, I haven't been paying attention. Nah. A lot of people probably read that community post when I said I wasn't coming back until Monday. But I came back a day early. Okay. Calzaghe versus Jones Jr. Now, Calzaghe split with promoter Frank Warren in June 2008 and announced that he would promote his fights personally, would be his own promoter for the remainder of his career, which is only one fight. Now, the split caused Warren to launch a court case against Calzaghe, claiming that a verbal promise to promote the Roy Jones Jr. fight was broken and that Calzaghe owed him $1.4 million. Calzaghe, in turn, claimed that Warren owed him past fees. In March 2009, the High Court ruled that Warren had persuaded Calzaghe to sign contracts under duress when Calzaghe was hungry and dehydrated, preparing for fights, and that Warren's company, Sports Network Limited, owed Calzaghe $2.8 million in unpaid fees. So if Warren would have never brought that case up, Calzaghe probably wouldn't have sued him, but Warren started it and ended up paying he ended up owing $2.8 million. Wow. On July 8th, 2008, after Calzaghe split from Frank Warren, it was officially announced that the 39-year-old Roy Jones Jr. and 36-year-old Joe Calzaghe had reached an agreement to fight for the Ring Light Heavyweight Championship in New York City at Madison Square Garden on September 20th, 2008 on HBO pay-per-view. Like I said, this is Calzaghe's only his second ever fight in the United States. Now, Jones was on the comeback trail and coming off a win over Felix Trinidad. After Calzaghe injured his right hand in training, the fight was postponed, with November 8th being set as the new date. Okay, it was originally July 8th. No, September 20th. So they postponed it for roughly a month. November 8th is set as the new date. Calzaghe was put down in the first round. Two close rounds followed before Calzaghe took control of the fight. In the 8th round, Jones sustained a cut over an eye, nearly forcing a stoppage. All three judges' decisions were 118-109 for Calzaghe. Yeah, he beat Roy widely. But Roy couldn't claim he won like B-Hop did because it was clear Calzaghe against Roy. Yeah, dominant performance for Joe. Okay, retirement. Retirement. Okay. On February 5th, 2009, Joe Calzaghe announced his retirement from professional boxing. He finished his career with a record of 46 wins and no losses, and becoming one of only 15 world champions at that time to retire as an undefeated world champion. Okay, we had some more since then. I think Andre Ward retired after him. And of course, Floyd, I think it's like 17 now. After his retirement, fellow boxer and friend Ricky Hatton described him as the best British fighter we've ever had, okay? As of May 2023, BoxRec rates Calzaghe as the second greatest European boxer, pound for pound of all time, behind Julio Loy, okay? Life after boxing. Life after boxing for Joe Calzaghe. Following his retirement from boxing, Calzaghe started his own boxing promotional company, Calzaghe Promotions, with his father, Enzo Calzaghe. Because remember, his last couple of fights, he promoted them himself, remember? He split from Frank Warren. So after he finished boxing, he just continued that with his father. In an interview with GMTV, Calzaghe stated he is promoting the best bullying campaign, okay? He is said to have found the inspiration from being a victim of bullying himself when he was young, saying he got bullied because of his small stature. Now, Calzaghe won the 2010 Soccer, a British charity football match, with the best of the world team beating England. And Joe scored the best of the world team's first goal. The game was tied after the full time, but the best of the world won on penalties. Okay? In 2012, Calzaghe made a cameo appearance as himself in an episode of the UK TV comedy drama Stella. Okay, and finally, personal life. Personal life. We got some other good stuff for this last half round too. Okay. Personal life. Calzaghe has 3 sons, 2 from an 11-year marriage to Mandy Davis from 1994 to 2005, and 1 from a 3-year relationship with Katie Matthews. Calzaghe split up with his girlfriend of 5 years, Jo Emma Larvin, in 2009 after participating in the 7th series of the BBC's Strictly Come Dancing series, partnering with Russian professional Kristina Rabinov. Calzaghe and Rabinov began a relationship soon thereafter. However, the couple announced the amicable breakup of their relationship in August 2013. Okay. Following an undercover investigation by the News of the World newspaper, Calzaghe admitted he had used cocaine since his boxing career had ended. In a statement on his website, he added that he regretted the occasional use of cocaine in what have sometimes been the long days since my retirement from the ring. Outside boxing, Calzaghe is a lifelong fan of Juventus FC. Okay, I believe that's some kind of soccer team, right? There you have it, the life and career of Joe Calzaghe. Okay, what are we gonna do now? Okay. Yeah, I got I read something the other day about a Tank and Dick Paul fight. Should we do that first? Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about these influencers in boxing. Okay. Let's talk about these influencers in boxing. Jake Paul and that crew. Are they good for it or what? Are they good for it or are they bad for it? And let's take a look at that. Okay. Appreciate everybody stopping by today. 1,000%. Okay, we're gonna look at some of these influencers in boxing. Are they good for it? I'm going to read a little article on them, and then I'm going to get my take on them. Hell no, they ain't good for it. But let's do this first. If I can find it. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's a long title. I didn't want to type all that in. Okay, let's look at it. The rise of influencer boxing. How social media stars changed the fight game. Now, the unlikely beginning. When British YouTubers KSI and Joe Weller stepped into the ring at London's Copper Box Arena in February 2018, few could have predicted they were launching a cultural phenomenon that would reshape boxing's landscape. The amateur fight streamed live on YouTube drew over 1.6 million live viewers and millions more in subsequent views, proving that social media stars could translate their digital following into real-world boxing appeal. Now, the KSI Logan Paul effect. Okay. Now, the breakthrough moment came with the first KSI versus Logan Paul fight in August 2018. Okay. This amateur white-collar boxing match at Manchester Arena sold out and generated massive pay-per-view numbers on YouTube. Their professional rematch in 2019, promoted by Eddie Hearn's Matchroom Boxing, legitimized influencer boxing by bringing it to the mainstream boxing world, complete with the DAZN broadcast rights and a full professional undercard. Transformation of the sport. Now, the influencer boxing movement has impacted pro boxing in several significant ways. New audience demographics. Social media stars have attracted younger viewers who might never have engaged with traditional boxing. These new fans, drawn initially by their favorite content creators, have begun following pro boxing more broadly. Revenue revolution. Influencer events have demonstrated new monetization possibilities, combining traditional pay-per-view sales with streaming platforms and social media engagement. This hybrid model has forced traditional boxing promoters to rethink their approach to event promotion and distribution. Training culture. Now, many influencers have documented their training journeys extensively on social media, demystifying the sport and inspiring fans to take up boxing themselves. This has led to increased participation in boxing gyms worldwide. Okay. Professional impact. Okay, professional impact. The movement has evolved beyond mere spectacle. Jake Paul, perhaps the most successful crossover star, has built a legitimate boxing career. No, he hasn't. Facing and defeating former MMA champions and Tommy Fury, 58-year-old Mike Tyson. Now you get ready to fight a 135-pounder. How the hell is that legitimate, right? Criticisms and controversy. The rise of influencer boxing hasn't been without its critics. Boxing purists argue that it diminishes the sport's integrity, turning serious athletic competition into entertainment spectacle. Yeah, like Jake Paul against Tank, that ain't nothing but a spectacle, a circus show, man. You got this 200-pound guy against a 135-pound. That's why they invented weight classes, to prevent nonsense like that, man. Okay? Him and Mike Tyson, a circus show spectacle. 30 years age in between them, right? Who thought Mike Tyson was going to beat Jake Paul? 58 years old. And Jake can box a little, and that's all you need for a 58-year-old man. Come on, man. Jake is not, that shit is not legitimate at all, okay? Now, legacy and impact. Whether celebrated or criticized, influencer boxing has undeniably changed the sports landscape. It has introduced new business models, attracted fresh audiences, and forced the boxing establishment to adapt to changing times. As the phenomenon continues to evolve, its long-term impact on boxing's future remains a fascinating story in development. Now, here's what I really think about it. Okay, right here. Okay, this is what I think about this influencer boxing BS. Right here. Okay. Is influencer boxing good for the sport of boxing? Hell, no. Not what Jake Paul doing. That's just making it or like the WWF, like a clown show. You're fighting 58-year-old men that weigh 60, 70 pounds less than you. What's good about that? Who wants to see that? I don't. Oh, come on, where is it? Okay, I'm gonna have to type this shit all over again. Okay, bear with me for a moment, please. Is influencer boxing good for the sport of boxing? It'll take me about a second. I type 15 words a minute. I'm fast. So how's everybody today? Hope everybody enjoyed Joe Calzaghe, Mr. 46-0. Well, I think it's like 17 that retired undefeated men right now. Yeah. It was 15. Joe Calzaghe was the 15th, because I think he retired before Andre Ward and Floyd Mayweather. Yeah, let me get this, because this is the truth about it. This influencer boxing. Okay, this is the truth. Who thinks this fight between Jake Paul and Tank is a good thing? It's good for them two. They're gonna make money. I guess some people are gonna pay for it. I'm not. You're paying for poop. I'm not paying for no poop. Gee, be Christmas, I can't even get it to come out. Like my friend Buddy J Hardcore say, you're paying for poop. There we go. There we go. Okay, this is the truth about this nonsense. Influencer boxing. Yeah, this is it. We'll drop this down a little bit. We got like 20 minutes left. Almost 30. Yeah, this is the truth. That's something on the worst boxing card ever, too. Tomorrow is Saturday. I was going to say what we're going to talk about tomorrow, but tomorrow is Saturday. Now, is influencer boxing good for the sport of boxing? Hell no. Now, the argument is that it is because it'll somehow revive interest in boxing, which has fallen from a major sport to a fringe sport. It won't revive interest. The test pilot for sideshow boxing was Mayweather versus McGregor 8 years ago, right? Or whenever that was. Like 10 now, something like that. But anyway, that was the test pilot for sideshow boxing, Mayweather versus McGregor. McGregor has no business in the ring with Floyd Mayweather, who used no Philly shell, no laser-like jabs, none of the things that made him Mayweather, and carried a gas and clueless McGregor to the 10th round. Afterwards, Floyd admitted he didn't train for McGregor and called it legalized bank robbery and maximum reward for zero risk, okay? And you had people talking about, oh, he went 10 rounds and he did this. Conor McGregor only did exactly what Floyd Mayweather let him do, okay? He did what Floyd Mayweather let him do. And since then, we've seen Jake Paul, we've seen MMA fighters. No, they can't box. We've seen a 5'7" former NBA player, influencer, John Gotti's grandson. Mayweather found some 97-pound Thai teenager to beat up. None of it has done anything for the sport of boxing. The fans that this appeals to know nothing about boxing. Because if they did, this wouldn't appeal to them, okay? And they aren't even interested in boxing. They're interested in the sideshow, okay? They know not the fans are interested in that nonsense Jake Paul and them doing, and Floyd, those exhibitions. They're not interested. They know nothing about boxing. They're not even interested in real boxing, okay? If they were, it's obvious that they're paying top dollar for skills that are grossly disproportionate to the asking price, okay? We even saw two strongmen champions with a combined weight close to 800 pounds out there boxing, okay? Two strongmen close to 800 pounds out there boxing. Come on, man. What is this doing for boxing? Nothing. The boxing lost ground because it needs to be fixed. Even if this nonsense sparked interest in boxing, it would be fleeting, because boxing would still have the same problems with this influencer, with it or without it. Number one, a depleted talent pool, okay? Number two, the heavyweight division was always the main attraction, and the sport ebbed and flowed as the strength of the heavyweight division. And today, in addition to the smaller talent pool, heavyweights also have a smaller athletic pool too. And the division is littered with slow, lumbering, cumbersome giants who were too unathletic for another sport. Then they discovered boxing. Because if they had an athleticism, they'd be playing football or basketball. And look who rules the heavyweight division. A damn blown up cruiserweight, Usyk. Usyk fought in the 70s. He would probably go down to light heavyweight. He wouldn't even try heavyweight, man. But he rules the division today, a blown up cruiserweight. That tells you the status of the heavyweight division. Anytime you got a blown up cruiserweight, undisputed. Come on, man. Be real. Keep it a buck. Keep it 100. Number three. Oh, I ain't even looking at the chat, man. There we go. Number three. Promoter greed is destroying the sport. Promoters run boxing, and there's no governing body to keep them under control. They don't play well with each other. And while all professions are about making money, this goes beyond that and is pure greed at the expense of the sport and the fans. They don't make the best matches or even ones fans want to see. There's too much cherry picking and padding records. Bums are promoted as a real threat to top fighters. And I don't usually call them bums, but bums are promoted as a real threat to top fighters. Fighters collect alphabet titles. Many top fighters avoid any semblance of real competition for their entire careers, okay? That's what's wrong with boxing. This influencer boxing can't do anything to fix none of this stuff, nothing. Number four, too many sanctioning bodies and too many world titles. Is influencer boxing going to take some of these sanctioning bodies and world titles away? No. Hell no, it's not. Number five, lack of one overall governing body with one competent commissioner, president, who is acting for the good of the sport now and going forward. Is influencer boxing going to give it that? No. Number six, fighters at the top take too much time off between fights. Often, sometimes 18 months to 2 years between one fight. Top fighters, okay? Influencer boxing ain't gonna make them fight no more often. That's what's wrong with boxing. These are things that Jake Paul and this influencer boxing is not going to fix. That's boxing's problem. Not that it just needs a spark to draw eyes to it. Plus, fans of sideshow boxing don't understand or even like the sport, like regular boxing, okay? They're watching the show and are entertained by staged antics, staged drama, stage trash talk, stage foul language, stage personal needs over complete silly nonsense. No grown man gets upset over. Okay? That's influencer boxing. Boxing needs someone with the money who can't be corrupted to unify under one organizing body. Put the promoters in their place, which is in another business, and have one champion per class and get rid of unnecessary classes, starting with the ridiculous Bridgerweight class, and enforce rules requiring a champion to fight at least once a year. It would help too if a fighter is inactive to drop their ranking and boot them out of the top 10 after a year of inactivity, right? That's what affects boxing, not Jake Paul's influencer boxing. These are the type of things that affect boxing. Now, the Saudis seem less interested in the bullshit and more interested in real fights. And they seem like fans, but smart ones, who can run a business and have billions of dollars and won't be pushed around by promoters wanting to protect their fighters and avoid real opponents. Hopefully more comes up this Saudi situation, right? And they look like the best hope to clean up the sport right now. The Saudis. Yeah. Influencer boxing show ain't gonna do it. Okay. The Saudis look like our best hope right now. Okay, hate to say it, but hey, that's the truth. It ain't Jake Paul and influencer boxing, that's for sure. Okay. Okay, we got like 3:45. I had something on this card, the worst fight card ever. It was the Muhammad Ali and Trevor Berbick card that Don King promoted. I told you before, Ali wasn't even supposed to be fighting. He failed his original physical, and then Don King went and found a doctor that was going to pay. And it wasn't even a real doctor, it was a psychiatrist. Well, I guess he's a doctor, but it wasn't a medical doctor. It was a psychiatrist that passed him. Ali was 39 years old, 37 or maybe 37. Couldn't even touch his finger to his nose. Couldn't stand on one leg. But they let him get in there and fight anyway, okay? Yeah, and the whole card was just terrible. Let's talk about that for these last 15 minutes. It was just terrible. But it was Don King. You know? It was the Don. We got a big weekend of boxing, though. We got tonight, Saturday, and Sunday. The Monster Sunday. Yeah, the Monster, one of them. Don't fight no big fighters. Ducking and dodging. Never. The biggest fight he fought was Cool Boy. Who has he fought other than that? That he was in danger of losing. Well, he wasn't even really in danger of losing to Cool Boy after we saw it, but he's only fighting guys he knows he can beat. You know? Yeah, the Monster. He's fighting in Las Vegas Sunday, but look who he's fighting. Somebody he knows he's going to win against. Come on, man. That's what's wrong with boxing. Influencer boxing, it's not going to fix this stuff. These top fighters got to start being in fights that they have a chance of losing. This guy Sunday don't even have a puncher's chance of beating Monster. William Skull, he don't even have a puncher's chance of beating Canelo tomorrow, man. Come on. Now we got a good card tonight, but they fall few and far between. That should be every card. You know? Should be like that. Not once every blue moon. But all I'm saying is the problems that's wrong with boxing, influencer boxing is not going to fix it. It's just a sideshow. And those fans aren't real boxing fans, no way. Those are fans that like the WWF, you know, like stage stuff. Look at Jake Paul, he just fought a 58-year-old man. They're talking about fighting a 135-pounder. That's not boxing. Come on, man. Who wants to see that? Who wanted to see Jake Paul fight Mike Tyson? 30 years in it here. Who wants to see Jake Paul fight Tank? I sure don't. For what? It's just a money grab. That's all. That's all it is now. Figure out the best way you can make the most money. Forget giving the fans the best fights anymore. That's what's wrong with the sport. Nothing influencing boxing can do to fix boxing. Our best chance is the Saudis. Okay? That's our best chance right now. Saudi Arabians. Okay, let's see what's going on with this. Yeah, that card, Muhammad Ali, his last fight against Trevor Berbick was the worst card ever. Man. Don King promoted it. Like I said, Ali wasn't even supposed to be in the ring fight. Didn't pass the physical. Don King went and couldn't get a medical doctor to pass, went and got a psychiatrist to pass it. Okay? Yeah, Muhammad Ali's last fight against Trevor Berbick. The entire undercard was the most unprofessional promotion and fights ever. That one right there. Let me get Jake Paul off of my damn screen. Kind of light. Yeah, that's the card. Okay. Yeah, that was the worst card in history. Ali's last fight against Trevor Berbick was an effort by him to go out a winner after the disaster of the Larry Holmes fight. The entire fight card from top to bottom endured some of the worst conditions and unprofessional conditions in boxing history. To begin with, Ali could not get a license anywhere in the USA, so the entire promotion was moved to the Bahamas, with Ali never passing a physical, right? Against Holmes, when he could not pass a fight physical, somehow he found a respectable clinic to sign off on his fighting. But this time, he could not find anyone in the entire medical world to sign off on his fighting again. Already had Parkinson's. Bad, okay? Was starting to suffer bad from it. Now, so for his last fight, he found another psychiatrist, a pathologist. That's even worse. Not a physician, a pathologist, okay? Who would claim that Ali's problems were psychological in nature. Dr. Harry Demopoulos, a professor of pathology, said that 30 doctors were involved in the study he did on Ali, and that they all came to the same conclusion. There's absolutely no evidence that Muhammad has sustained any injury to any vital organ: brain, liver, kidneys, heart, lungs, nervous system, or muscle, or bone systems. His blood tests indicate he has the vessels of a young man. All they had to do was listen to him talk. He was already slurring his words and stuff then. Didn't he have to do no tests? Just listen to the man talk. You could tell something was wrong with him. He didn't have no business in no boxing ring, right? Right? Okay. And the slurring of words and apparent motor damage Ali was suffering, like not being able to stand on one foot or touch his nose, the doctor said, "We think it's a psychosocial response. If the slurring were due to permanent damage, it would be there all the time." That's what the doctor said. Don King must have paid him well, right? That's what he said. If the slurring were due to permanent damage, it would be there all the time. That's crazy. Incredibly, the pathologist could not produce one neurologist, neurosurgeon, psychiatrist, or psychologist who signed off on this bizarre diagnosis. Okay? Not one. Only South Carolina would issue a license. But when there were objections from the medical community there, they took it out of the country. And the Bahamas Minister of Sports, Youth, and Community Affairs, Kendall Nottage, approved the fight, right? Without a medical doctor signing off on it. Okay? Nottage said, I was shown a number of medical reports and they were satisfactory to me. No, you were shown a number of money. That's what you were shown. When asked for the reports, Nottage refused to show them to anyone because he was lying. This was a complete debacle. This card was a complete debacle. None of the alleged studies on Ali or tests were ever published, and Demopoulos was unable to explain subsequently Ali's worsening illness. Then the fight, an undercard, was promoted by a crook, okay? Literally a crook. The fight was promoted by Sports International Limited, a Bahamian corporation formed to promote the Ali fight and undercard. The president of the company was a Nation of Islam member, James Cornelius, who was a member of Temple Number 5 in Atlanta, who had met Ali a few years earlier. After the disastrous fight promotion, the Los Angeles Times, digging into Cornelius' past, found court records in Atlanta where he had pled guilty in 1975 to 5 counts of theft in connection with a used car dealership he ran. Cornelius was sentenced to 5 years probation after agreeing to pay back $23,000 to individuals and banks. That's who they had promoting the fight. On January 14th, 1982, the Los Angeles Times also reported that Cornelius was also being investigated by the FBI for bank fraud in Atlanta. The Times later reported that he was convicted of bank fraud and sentenced to prison. Cornelius later changed his name to Ali Muhammad. He never promoted another fight. He changed his name to Ali Muhammad. Muhammad Ali. I'm gonna make mine Ali Muhammad. Wow, he changed his name to Ali Muhammad. Now, Don King managed to get beaten up while trying to stop the fight. I'm sorry, Don. Don was involved in it. Now, Don, who had options on Berbick's future fights after he fought Larry Holmes for the WBC title in March of 1981, flew to the Bahamas to try to stop the fight. King had forced Berbick to agree to future fights with King in order to get his title shot and wanted his piece of the action. According to James Shabazz, a Nation of Islam member and a member of Ali's entourage, told Thomas Hauser that Cornelius had gone to visit King to tell him to leave the Bahamas, and the meeting rapidly turned physical. Cornelius went to confront Don and tell him to stop interfering with the promotion. They had some words, and Don made the serious mistake of shoving one of the brothers who was with Cornelius. And they went to work on him pretty good. Yeah, they worked Don over pretty good. They banked Don. Yeah, but I'm sorry, Don King. I was blamed. Don King wasn't involved in the promotion. Don went down there and got banked, trying to stop the fight. Shortly after they banked Don, that same day, Don flew back to Florida. He rolled out. Yeah, Don got out of Dodge after he got banked. And he was admitted to the hospital with a broken nose. I would stop. With Don. Okay, we almost finished anyway. But when Don got back to Florida, he was admitted to the hospital with a broken nose, some missing teeth, and a badly cut lip. King angrily told the press after his release from the hospital, Mr. Cornelius and 4 other men came to my hotel room and attacked me. Cornelius said to me after the assault that if I did not leave the Bahamas, I would be killed. Given King's past as a numbers runner and his conviction for manslaughter, His cries of illegality fell on mostly deaf ears. Yeah, nobody. They say you live by the sword, you die by the sword, Don. We're gonna stop it there though, okay? But wow. I can't believe they banked Don. Don should have took his boys with him. Yeah, see, Don was promoting Trevor Berbick, and Don wasn't involved in that fight with Ali, so he went down there to stop the fight and got beat up. Had a broken nose, some missing teeth, and what else did he have? Broken nose, missing teeth, and a badly cut lip. Yeah. They 4 of them jumped on Don. Okay. But I hope everybody enjoyed it. It's Friday. We'll be back Monday with some more cast sports. Let's talk fashion. What's up? Let's talk fashion. Did you hear about the Don beatdown? That was crazy, wasn't it? Broken nose, some missing teeth, and a badly cut lip. He went down and got banked. But when he came back complaining about it, nobody paid him no attention because that's how you live, Don. So hey. But salute, Let's Talk Fashion in the building. Okay, we're gonna get ready to step aside, leave it time for Just Do Boxing. Now, I hope everybody enjoyed the show today. Yeah, I wanted to get to that part about Don before we finished though. That was crazy, man. But I was blaming Don, but Don wasn't involved in it. It was this other crook. Yeah. And they got a pathologist to sign off on Ali for the fight. He said the slurring of the words wasn't a problem because if they were, they would be there all the time. That's what this guy said, man. Then he said, we got reports saying there's nothing wrong with him, but nobody ever saw these reports. To this day, nobody saw these reports, right? Yeah. That was the worst promotion in history. In the history of promotions. Yeah, that was terrible, man. And the fight was terrible, too. Y'all, he had no business in there. He was suffering from Parkinson's pretty bad by then. Slurring his words and all kinds of stuff. But the doctor said he didn't do it all the time, so it's not a problem, right? So, yeah. Okay, I'm trying to see the thumbnail for Just Do Boxing today. Okay, not sure. I hope everybody enjoyed the show today. We'll be back Monday with some more boxing history. Appreciate everybody that came through today, though. Let's Talk Fashion. Goro, Mike Mazzick, Ray Patterson, Donnie Williams, Miss Cass. Got a whole weekend of great boxing, though. Starting tonight with the Ryan Rowley card, and then we got Canelo and William Skull tomorrow, and the Monster Sunday. You know who's going to win those two tomorrow. The best card is tonight. William Skull don't have a puncher's chance of beating Canelo, and that guy don't have a puncher's chance of beating the Monster. That's what I was just talking about, man. These top fighters, they take fights that they know they're going to win. And influence to boxing ain't going to fix none of that. That's just a sideshow. But I'll see y'all Monday. If it's Monday through Friday at 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian bringing you all that boxing history. Everybody have a great weekend.